Welcome to Leap Into Your Story podcast, where you discover your inner story, break down the process, and meet others who've done it so you can leap into your own story. We interview amazing guests who provide powerful insights that inspire you to get your story told. Be sure to visit our website at leapintoyourstory.com, and while you're there, subscribe and like us via your favorite social media network. Now sit back, get ready to take some notes, and let's get started. This episode of Leap Into Your Story podcast is brought to you by Leap Into Your Story course. Visit leapintoyourstory.com, where you have a guide to get your story told. I'm Victoria Anderson, and welcome to the Leap Into Your Story podcast, where you discover your inner story, work through the process, and meet others who've done it. We interview amazing guests who provide powerful insights that will inspire you to leap into your own story. Be sure to visit our website at leapintoyourstory.com, and while you're there, subscribe and like us via your favorite social media network. In this podcast episode, we're going to be discussing quantum healing. My guest today is Todd Wilcox, known as the Slipstream Shaman, and has had a lifelong fascination with alternative healing, consciousness expansion, and human potential. His first book, Slipstream Shaman, Using Quantum Healing for Individuals, Communities, the Planet, and Beyond, was recently published, and the next two books in the series will be out soon. Todd also loves talking about paranormal and hosts his own radio program called My Side of the Universe. So Todd, welcome, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Victoria. I'm super happy to be here and glad all the electronics are working right now.
That's always a go, and always a challenge in the paranormal world too.
I'm telling you, between me and some of the guests I've had, there's no chance for electronics to work.
Yes, I do that.
Before.
Well, as we were chatting before we hit the record button, I have a love-hate relationship with my dishwasher for that very same reason, and a very confused dishwasher repairman as well to boot. So
confused and lost.
Yes, confused and lost. Yes. Well, Todd, you have a chock full of information to share with us today. So let's talk about how this all started. Take us on our journey to find out, what a slipstream shaman is, and a lot of the, information about quantum healing, which definitely is catching a lot of attention now, not only in the fringe of paranormal, but certainly mainstream. So let's go on that journey. Take us on that journey, how this all started.
Excellent. Maybe a good place to start before I go to how it all started was to talk about what the slipstream means in Slipstream Shaman.
Okay.
So shamanism is about doing healing work in the energy and spirit realm. So it's usually done with meditation, or, in some countries with drugs like ayahuasca, those kind of things. But I do it through meditation, and I get to that place of spirit and energy. So that's the shaman part. Slipstream is about the speed and the ease. And so I want you to think about you're driving on the freeway and a big diesel semi comes by you. And as it goes past you, your car kind of pushes over to the side, and then it gets by and it sucks you back where you were. That's part of its slipstream. If you get behind the truck, you'll notice that a minute ago you were going 65 and say your tachometer was showing 2,000 RPMs. If you get behind that truck, now all of a sudden you're going 70 and the tachometer's gone down. So you're going faster and using less energy. That's part of the slipstream. So what happens is as you as you do healings, as you work on your life, the things that you're working on right now will affect your past and affect your future. And the stuff that you've done in the past will project you, just like that semi did, into the future and make things change much faster. The change that we look for with the slipstream processes that we do, we look to take care of immediately. It's not a 3-day event. It's not a come back 27 times. It's the intent is to take care of it that first time and as fast as possible, because we don't have tons of time anymore. I remember 30 years ago, the computers were supposed to make things so nice that by the year 2000, we'd only work 20-hour work weeks and about 40 weeks a year. Well, that's kind of changed, hasn't it? There's so much information. We're now working longer and not getting vacation. So, they absolutely got that prediction backwards. But I like to do things fast. So that's where the Slipstream Shaman name came in. And how this started for me was I was on a paranormal team, and when you're doing that kind of work, you get to know other paranormal teams. You end up at the same places, you end up at the same events, and you get to know other teams. And I got a call one day from another team saying, "Hey, we're putting together a side group with 1 or 2 people from a bunch of different teams, and they're going to help people that nobody else can help." So if a paranormal team went and tried to help somebody with a haunting or whatever the case may be, and they couldn't, then they would call us. And I said, that's wonderful. I think it's a great thing to do. But how do we do it? How do we make it better? Because we may be the groups that can't help these people. And, our own group may be what can't help them. And then we'd call ourselves and then how do we help? So we started talking about how we're going to do this. And, one of the suggestions was, well, we'll study demonology and we'll do this and we'll do this. And they had all these ideas. But one of the people suggested getting a shaman to come in and help us with energy to protect ourselves and to protect the people that were there. And I thought that's a wonderful place to start. So we did that. We brought a shaman in, and she was teaching us how to find our energy. The problem was she was trying to force her version on us, what her energy looked like. And that's not what our energy looked like. Everybody has different energy. And I'm trying to remember exactly what she said, but she was teaching us to find our energy between our hands. We have some receptors. Some people consider them chakras, but we have energy that we know about here. And so as I'm doing this, she's saying it's going to feel hot, and it's going to be red, and it's going to look like this. And mine wasn't like that at all. My energy was cool. It was light blue. It almost looked like a gelatinous ball. As I would get my hands tighter, it would shrink. If I would bring it out, it'd get bigger. So what I was experiencing was nothing like she was describing, and it was frustrating to me. Her description and trying to force us to have her same experience was just taking me out of it. So I just backed out. I disengaged. I didn't want to ruin it for anybody else in case they were getting a lot out of it. But I did pay attention to what she was telling us. So when I got home, I started practicing it on my own. And one of the things that I teach in the book is find that trail, find that course that's right for you. So if they're working on the processes I'm teaching, and something doesn't feel quite right, and they need to adjust it until it does, that's fantastic. Do that. There is no problem with that at all. One of my favorite movies is called A River Runs Through It. And the dad in that movie was teaching the boys how to fly fish. And he had one of the metronomes, from your piano. Mm-hmm. And he was showing, this is how you cast. This is the rhythm of your cast. And he taught them that and forced them to do it. And here's how you're going to fish. Well, when they became men, they were out fishing, the dad and the 2 sons. And the youngest son broke away. He found his own rhythm and went and caught a gigantic fish. He became his own fisherman. And that's what I encourage people to do. Find your path. Use what I'm teaching as a basis, and then develop your own thing and go with what's right for you. Maybe what I do is exactly right. but maybe there's some adjustments, and that's fine. You won't mess it up. Adjust it until it works for you. So back to how it developed. I knew that I could find my energy because I found it with that shaman. And so I started working on my energy at home and practicing accessing it. And then really everything else was either intuitive or I was led to it by one of my guides. And I couldn't tell you which, because it wasn't the guide saying, hey, do this. But things seemed to develop at a very rapid rate. So I'm sure I was getting some guidance. So I started bringing my hands together, finding my energy, and then I would cover myself with it. That led to covering myself with it and expanding it so that the house was protected, expanding it to put it around somebody else's house, expanding it to go down the road that we were going to drive on to get to these things, to give us protection. All these energy protections I was working on. One day while I was doing that, I don't remember exactly what happened, if I had a thought about, meditation, or if I went into it with a plan, or if it just happened. I'm not sure which, but I'm working with the energy, and all of a sudden I was in a different place. And it's a place that I call the quantum room. And what that looked like at the time, it recently just evolved and changed to something different. And my energy changed as well. During the course of the years, my energy went from that light blue that I was talking about to something that looks very much like the book cover. It's if you can imagine a sparkler or shining a light through a big diamond, what that would look like. It's just very, very many beautiful, bright colors. And so it changed, it evolved. And probably into something that fits me better or that helps me with what I'm doing. I don't know why it changed or what the significance is, but I do know it changed. And so my original quantum room was just this place of mist. I knew there was walls, I knew there was a ceiling, I knew there was a floor, but I couldn't see them. It was just mist. And picture being just in the center of a big storm cloud. That's what it looked like. It was a dark gray, undulating mist all around me. And that was my quantum room. And what I found there was I was able to meditate when I was there. I was able to really focus on things and access energy. And I just started experimenting. And we, because we were doing the work to help people that maybe had a haunted house that wouldn't go away, or what they thought was a demon, or whatever the case may be, I felt like there needed to be some kind of a warrior aspect. So when I was in the quantum room, I said I need a warrior team who will come to me, and that was part of that shaman training too, was bringing in warriors to help you. And so I said, who wants to be on my warrior team? The mist opened up a little bit, and a little beagle came walking in. And she was a beagle that I'd had before, named Desi, and she had the best nose I've ever been around. She could sniff out anything, and she was ferocious. She was not afraid of anything. She was very loving, very protective, very much a part of the family, and loved people, but she did not tolerate other animals in her yard. No rats, no snakes, no other dogs. She was very, very protective. And for being a tiny little dog, she would engage with anything and normally came out on top. So I thought, this is a perfect member of the team. Then I had other dogs. You can see behind me a picture of a Springer Spaniel on the wall. I've always had Springer Spaniels. And some of the Spaniels that I'd had in the past came to me as well. An uncle came to me. And if you can picture a cross between Clint Eastwood and Red Foreman from that 70s show, that was my uncle. And, a decorated Marine from World War II and also Korea. Every kid in the neighborhood respected and feared him. And all the boys became Marines. Every kid on that block became a Marine. All of us, we all went into the Marine Corps because we wanted to be like him. And it wasn't like he was recruiting us or guiding that in any way. We were just we thought this was how you behaved when you were a male, when you were a man. And And so he was in. I was super happy with that. And then there was some, we'll call them fictional characters. There was a giant Martian from a book. There was a giant turtle from a movie. There was those kind of things that came to help as well. So I had a warrior team. And we, and I say we all the time because there's these energy teams. I wasn't sure what they were at first, if it was just a part of my imagination, if these things were parts of me that I was just using to manifest, the dogs and that. But what I really believe is that it's their essence, it's their spirits that have come to help. They want to help with this. And so these pets that I've lost in the past, and it's since grown. There's now cats. There's some horses that my dad had. There's a giraffe that I've never met. It just started showing up about 6 months ago. And so there's other things that have added to it that have been very beautiful and very helpful. So that's the warrior team. And quite by accident, I knew somebody was having trouble with their health. And I don't know why I invited them in. I might have been wanting to invite their essence in to meditate. It wasn't with the intention of healing them or anything else, but I invited somebody in. And what I found was that Desi she would always be the one that initiated things. She would go to the people or the animals that I invited in and start sniffing around them and pull things out of them. Now, this is all metaphysical. It's in the spirit and energy realm, right? So they're not standing in the room with me, and my dog is not pulling things out of them, but she's pulling it out of their essence. And they don't always make sense as to what they are, but typically they have meaning when I'm telling people. And so I started doing these healings on people, removing things. Desi would find things that didn't belong. We'd remove them. And because it was a warrior group, we incinerated these things. And I have learned more since then, and I'll share that in a second. But the people would get better. So we would find they were having knee troubles. We would find something like what looked like barbed wire to us. We'd pull it out of the person, incinerate it, and they would get feeling better. Now, many of them over time would go back to where they were. And I realized that nature abhors a vacuum. And so I thought, if we take something out, we have to put something in. So if we remove something from somebody, what we started doing was I created a love team. I invited, who wants to be on the love team? And my aunt came out. She was the nicest person that's ever lived. She loved everybody. Everybody loved her. She wanted everybody included. She was just truly a beautiful being. And so she was the first one out. And we had some of my other dogs, the nicer dogs, came out to be a part of it. And so we developed that love team. And what we started doing was we would take something out of a person, put love in to finish off the healing, to fill that up, so that there was nothing for it to revert back to. There was no room for it to revert back to anything. So the next step that happened was, as I was incinerating these things that we were removing from people, I got this thought hit me, and I'm guessing it was from a guide that said, most things start with a positive intention. And I thought, maybe these things did start with a positive intention. So what it turned out being was what I call a companion. Something that started out with a positive intent that was helping a person, over time no longer help them. Just an easy way to think about it is, say you're 5 years old and you hurt your arm. So you take a strap and you wrap it around your bicep and you wrap it tight, and that makes it feel better. Well, what happens if you leave that there for a week? What happens if it's there for a month, a year, 5 years? What was helping your arm feel better is now constricting it and killing it. And so things like that happen to us, where something comes along that's positive, that's helping us. But as we grow and develop, it becomes something that gets in the way. And that's a companion. And so we would remove these things. And that's about 95% of what we find are companions. We would remove these things, give them cleansing energy instead of just incinerating them, and then give them love energy so they could revert back to the energy that they started out as. So I had a lady that I was doing a healing on, and I don't ask for much information. I find if I know too much about the person, my brain kicks in instead of the spirit. And so I don't like to know a lot about them. And she just asked me for a healing. And Desi sniffs around her, pulls this rag out of her chest from the back, pulls this rag out that was kind of wadded up around her heart. And we send cleansing energy into her body and then love energy to seal everything up. We put cleansing energy onto that rag and then give it love energy, and it transforms into this little boy. And he looks up at her with just absolute love in his eyes, and then he goes on his way. And I don't know what that meant. I don't interpret. That's for those people to decide. And that's, they don't always share with me what these things mean. Sometimes they don't mean anything, or sometimes they don't mean anything immediately. And 2 days later, they go, oh, now I understand what that was. But yeah, this little boy just looked up at her with this gorgeous smile, and then he left. Well, I find out that she'd had a heart problem and that she was on heart medication and different things. And she was actually dying from it. Things were getting worse. She was going to have to increase her medication, and who knows where that would lead. And within about a month later, she went to her doctor, and he says, I really like where we're going right now. And he says, we're not going to increase the medicine like I said we would. Let's leave it alone for a month. I want to check you in a month. A month later, she goes in for another follow-up, and he says, you know what, things are improving. We're backing off the medicine. So he took some of the medicine off. Within a year, she was completely off the heart medicine and is doing great. She started doing martial arts for exercise and dancing for exercise, and is really doing great. Lots of energy coming around. And I didn't know that she had the heart trouble. She didn't share that with me, and that's by design. I don't want to know. But we found that, and I don't know for sure if what we did was the reason that she healed, but I think we might be that straw that breaks the camel's back. The medicine's doing its job, but there's an energy block that's stopping things from completely healing, those kind of things. And I think that's where we come in. We're not a replacement for doctors by any means, but we're there to help with another part of your healing. And many times it's that final stick, that straw that breaks the camel's back, and now you're able to heal. So that's the companions. There are also things that I find that I call parasites. And these things typically started with a bad intention. Something negative attaches to somebody and feeds on them. And most of the time when I find these things, they're very insect-like looking. I do find companions that are insect-like looking, but when we clean them up and give them love, their reaction is not the same as a parasite's. They'll revert back to their good energy and turn into a house or a stream or a bird or whatever the case, and go be their thing. But with a parasite, when we give them the cleaning energy, they look like they're in pain. We give them the love energy, and many times they just dissolve and fall apart. They can't exist in that place of love. So that leads me to call them a parasite. And something that I realized on one of these shows was I have probably caused a lot of parasites with the horrible things I scream while I'm driving. And the road rage that I take part of. And so I did a polymedella on road rage, and we'll talk about polymedella later, but that's a mini healing. I did a polymedella on that, and I am a much better citizen when I'm on the road now. And typically when I'm on these shows, the host will laugh kind of like you did, and then say, yeah, I'm one of them too. So it leads me to believe that everybody's screaming at everybody. And I think we're putting out some very bad energy when we're driving, and that these things can end up becoming parasites on people and leeching off of them. And I would say that that's about 4.5%, maybe close to 5% of what I run into. And then a very small portion of the things that I find when I'm doing this work is something that I would call otherworldly. You might call it a demon, you might call it an alien, you might call it who knows what. But these things are not nice things. They're not they didn't start with a positive intent. They're something that is very bad. And I've only run into 3 of those in all the healings that I've done. So there's not very many of those. So that's where the whole thing started. And in a nutshell, what it is, people ask for a healing. I meditate. I bring them into the quantum room. They don't need to be in the room with me. I've helped people that are in Scotland, Ireland, England, Germany, Sweden, South America, all across the United States. I'm still hoping for somebody from Easter Island to get in touch with me because I love Easter Island. But yeah, Australia. So yeah, virtually almost everywhere in the world I've been able to work with people, and I don't have to see them. At first it was hard to do that just off an email, but I'm getting better and better at getting with them. It used to be I would have to be referred, say a friend, say you and I had known each other for a while, and you said, hey, my neighbor is having trouble. Can you do a healing for her? And I could get to her through your energy and then to her. But with emails at first, it was a little bit difficult, but we're there. I've had to call a few people, but for the most part, we're able to do it with just an email, and they don't even have to be involved. In fact, I'm behind on them. I've had so many lately that I'm behind, and I'm probably close to a month behind right now. And so the healing is kind of neat because it doesn't always correspond to our physical time that I do the healing. There's another aspect of this called retrocausality, and time is different in this. So retrocausality is you do something now that affects the past. And so when I learned about retrocausality, I was driving on the freeway listening to a show, probably like yours, and they started talking about it. And what they did was some researchers had access to a hospital. They went in and they collected files of people that had a blood disease from 10 years and older back. And they took these files and they just randomly put them into 2 different piles. And on the one pile, they sent prayer, they sent positive energy, they gave them good thoughts on these files. And the other pile they did nothing with. Then as they reviewed the results of the 2 different sets of patients, they found that the people that they had done the praying on and sent the good energy and all that they recovered faster. They were in the hospital less time. It took less drugs for the recovery. More of them survived. There was a whole bunch of different things that keyed into that. And I was super happy with this because most of the things that we do in the paranormal world don't have that kind of check to it. You know, it's you're hoping that it's true. Ghost hunters, different ghost hunting places talk about we use the scientific method when we're hunting for ghosts. No, you're using tools from science, but the scientific method has to do with replicating. If you can't replicate it, you're not using the scientific method. And so they're kind of stretching the truth on that, but they are using tools and different things for experiments, but they're not replicating. So retrocausality. And so somebody can ask me to do something, ask me for a healing today. I don't do it for 2 weeks, but somehow they still get the benefit today. And that's because when you get into the place of energy and spirit, time is not what it is here. Time for us in our physical body is linear. Time there is like all at once. When I did the book, and I was part of the book is talking about different experiences that I've had while I've done this work. My sentences would have present, future, and past tense in the same sentence. And they were the right words for my experience. They were the wrong words for people that know how to read English. And so my editor, it would drive her crazy. You've got to pick one. You can't. And I said, well, if I change it to present, the other 3 words in there don't make sense, so they're wrong words. And she just said, you've got to take one. People won't understand you if you're doing it the way you're doing it. And so that just got me thinking about how the interaction is in spirit and energy, and it has nothing to do with time. If you think about a spaghetti noodle and you're holding it straight, that's what time looks like for us in the physical body. But if you take that same noodle and wad it up into a ball, that's closer to what it's like in that area of spirit and energy where present, past, and future is all touching at the same time.
Yes.
So yeah, so there's a big long vomit of how this all started and where we got to.
No, it's all I'm just taking it in and just taking good mental notes. I know I've had my experience with the jumbled spaghetti, and I've had a few instances in some of my books where I reference that, don't worry about things in the past or worry in the future, just take care of the now, because everything is malleable. So, and I remember just even talking to somebody and telling them, they got a little bit of life coaching, whether they wanted it or not. Yes. That, trust me, if you fix things, you'll even, if you catch even things that are in your family lineage, if you fix it now, it sends out a ripple effect going
back and forward
and every other way.
Yep.
So yeah, you've got my everything stirring.
So another thing that happened as this was all developing was the concept of 7 generations. And now the final step in a healing is I call in the 7 generations for the person that I'm helping. We've found the companions or parasites and removed them from them. We've healed those areas. And now what we're doing is bringing in the 7 generations from the past, 7 generations from the future, to surround this person, give them connection, protection, love. And it's just that wonderful final step. And one of the beautiful things is sometimes the people had problems with family members, with parents, with grandparents, cousins, uncles, something. And they will be a part of that 7 generations. They come in to help, and it helps with the forgiveness and the healing with those bonds as well. And it's just one of my favorite parts is watching the 7 generations and seeing what changes. Sometimes when they come out, they just start dancing. The 7 generations are just dancing around the people. Sometimes it's a big group hug. Sometimes they're all just standing. Sometimes they're just running up and grabbing the person and making sure they know that they're there. There's all kinds of things. Sometimes I see colors coming out of the group or numbers or symbols, and I share those with the people. And it's really become my favorite part of the whole thing is watching that interaction when they're really getting that connection with family. And it's not just blood relatives, it's people from your spirit groups, it's from it's friends, it's animals, it's people that could have or should have been part of your family. They're all part of it. So anybody that's thinking, well, I don't have any kids, I'm not going to have any 7 generation future. Yes, you will. You'll have your other parts of your family, your brothers, sisters, nephews, whatever, their future will also be a part of it. And so, yeah, it's a gigantic group of people that all come in, and there's always plenty from the past and the future.
Yes, I totally wholeheartedly believe that, because I felt it. You can't necessarily prove it, but you can tell by the changes in people when they get it on some level.
Absolutely.
Because now they they're making decisions that whatever might have started that lineage problem, whether it be addiction, abuse, whatever, it stops with them and it doesn't go any further, and it fixes that ripple.
Yes.
On some level, because time, like he says, we're linear. Time is one big giant whatever hot mess.
Yes.
And I even write about certain years that overlap. Like I can tell, like say if this is 2023, I could feel the energy that this may be a similar energy stream that came back in like 1999.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. I love
And
that.
sometimes I get like it's like every year has its own energy residue.
Okay.
And when that happened, which I've learned to identify, it hits my radar to say, what did I do? What's the commonality with these 2 years? What do I need to put on my radar to change or alter? Because that's why I feel like it's coming back around. These 2 years.
I really like that. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. And, I didn't know what it was. I've searched, couldn't find. I'm like, like he says, you have to figure out your own, ticking.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things that I've developed is now I can sense like, oh, okay, this year's coming around. What do I need? What did I do? Maybe not so good. And I'm going to have an opportunity to fix whether, even if there's nothing in the physical that's the same, but energetically, there may be some undertows in there that, I perk up to and try to be alert to, what needs to be fixed.
Yeah, for sure. I think you've hit it, and that's cool. I've never had that connection with different years' energies. Something that I need to pay attention to.
Yeah.
And maybe I do a little bit. I like listening on the weekends. Many times they'll have an old America's Top 40 from whatever year, 30, 40 years ago. And it's almost like a time machine listening to those songs and what order they were in during that week. And it's really fun that it pulls you back to that nostalgia, and you can feel that energy from that time. And every once in a while, I even get a smell from that time that I haven't been associated with for a long time, not even thought about.
Yeah, I have a problem. My husband watches movies all the time. I have a problem because I can't get into the movies because I'm feeling the energy of when they were filmed.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So if I'm watching something, about Westerns from the 1800s, I'll feel all the energy of the 1950s.
Well, I wonder if I'm doing the same thing, because I absolutely love to watch 1950s sci-fi.
Yeah.
It's my favorite thing in the world to watch.
Those are the only ones where it's like it's hokey 50s. It's totally B. I those are the only ones I can really enjoy because it's all aligned up. It's perfect for the 50s. It's trying to be the 50s. It's not trying to be like the 80s. So it's to be, a Martian invasion in the 50s. So it all kind of lines up for me with the energy.
That's true. That makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna have to look at that a little more.
Yes. Cool. And then of course with the the animals, if you read any of my books, my animals are my guardians all the time. And even though the inside animals is down to one, my animal kingdom, which is interesting, I'm near the Rio Grande. So I get a whole lot of different species of birds. And I never figured myself as a bird person. But in California, when I was in LA, I was the crazy cat lady with all the feral cats. Now I am the crazy bird lady of New Mexico, apparently. But they definitely respond to me. So, I always, again, there's that guardianship around me that I feel comfortable. And I feel a little odd when I don't see any birds. So
yeah, and
I feel a little naked with no birds around, and
there's something about those birds. And I always admired them. I thought the freedom that they have to be able to fly was wonderful, and I liked watching them, to an extent. But something happened about 3.5 to 5 years ago where I really can't take my eyes off them. And it doesn't matter what they are, whether a hummingbird, a starling, a hawk, a blackbird, it doesn't matter what. I just
sounds like my front yard and backyard. And then of course I have a bossy roadrunner who wants me to feed her every morning. She gives me the stink eye through the patio door, like, well, I'm waiting, lady, hurry up.
That is awesome. Yeah, being friends with Roadrunner. That is cool.
Yeah. Yeah. They're super smart and uber bossy.
Yeah.
Super bossy. But occasionally we get geese and ducks, like a lone duck, or I'm like, okay, I guess it's the migration. They all stop here and apparently they talk. So
Yeah. She's nice. Stop there.
yep. Give her a little sad little birdie face and she'll change the water and give you some food. Yeah.
Nice. Love it. Absolutely love it.
But as far as healing energy, one of the things that I've come across that I think where Western medicine doesn't go far enough is, they treat the symptoms, but not the cause.
Yes.
And I think there's a lot of medical issues out there that are associated with energy.
Yes.
Energy stuck. I know myself a couple years ago, I had hit just an absolute wall with, health issues. And I knew Western medicine was going to try to give me a pill or something that was going to make me worse, because my body does not deal well with any type of Western medicine. So I went and I had an evaluation by a Chi master.
Okay.
As I was signing up for a Qigong class, I kept hearing Qigong, Qigong. So I'm like, what the heck is Qigong? Went, lo and behold, and one of my biggest issues that I've had was that I had this radiating, like it felt like somebody started a bonfire on my chest. And a lot of nurses had some theories about that. And I'm like, no, it's all wrong. This Chi master in 90 minutes says, oh, you have not only an energy blockage, but my Chi was going backwards.
Oh.
So there's a natural flow that goes on. And so illness happens when you get that block and it stays blocked. Mine was going the reversed way, which is from what I researched was pretty bad. And within 90 minutes, I felt like $1,000,000, like everything in my body had just been cleared out and was circulating. And, it's gotten more into the energy healing. I had few experiences with some Chi doctors, but never really took it seriously. Yeah, I now take the energy healing very, very seriously now, because I'm living testament that, since that moment, I never got that feeling since then.
Okay. Yeah, it's quite the experience, and we have missed out. We went chemistry 150 years ago, and really and became exclusive chemistry. And I don't know if that was because of the drug companies pouring money into doctors to stick that way, or if it, exactly how it happened. But I think we do need to look at more things, especially energy work, and see where that leads us as an alternative, as a help to regular medicine.
Yes, I think maybe even just helping with, the Western medicine can help with the symptoms, but if the chemistry is not working, you need to keep going further and further. Now, I have a question for you talking about the parasites, because in my book, Mastering the Paradox, I have a very strange encounter. It was literally a setup encounter between myself and some stranger lady in Walmart.
Okay.
And when she was reaching up, I saw like a dark smoke at the small of her back that was in a funnel. She caught me staring at her back and she says, I know you saw it. So she had later told me that she was told to meet somebody at the Walmart who would give her some prophetic message. And she felt that I was, I mean, we clearly hooked up, but turns out that she was diagnosed with terminal spine cancer. And where I was looking that I saw it, that's exactly where it was diagnosed.
Man,
So
that, there's, again, we have so few ways to validate what we're doing. When you have an experience like that, where you get that validation,
right.
It is wonderful, and it really keeps your energy right and keeps you focused and wanting to do more when you get that validation. And sometimes we want to call them coincidences, but the coincidences stack up to a point where you can no longer say they're all just coincidences.
Yeah,
We're actually
that removed. I mean, I was in a dark place in my life, and I did not want to go out with people. And I was told I was going to meet somebody at 1:30 and give them some healing. And this lady was told on her end that 1:30 somebody was going to go there and give her healing and a prophetic message. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, that was pretty. That's why it made it into the book.
Absolutely.
Because something like that, it's not a coincidence.
Yeah, for sure.
Just know. But I was curious, being that with the parasites, was that something, because I know you said you do this in the quantum room. Obviously, Walmart turned into one big quantum room for me. But do parasites, are you able to, like, what identifies them? Are they the darker color? Like I saw that black smoke.
Yeah, so everything looks different. So as we're taking things off people, it might look like a branch or a rock or a sock or a rag or a bug or a rabbit. Everything we're taking off people looks different. With the parasites, they have tended to look like an insect almost, and an aggressive insect, and usually fairly big. So those, and then the reason that I say they're, as I call them a parasite, when we get them off the person, we hit them with the cleaning energy, and then we hit them with love energy to heal them. They usually disappear. They will go up in a puff of smoke. They will melt into the ground. They will just dissolve. And that's what the difference is to me, whether I call it a parasite or a companion, is that ending part, how they go away. If they revert back to their natural energy state that was to originally help, and they're back to doing that again, I know that they were a companion. And if they just dissolve and go away, we've released that negative energy out of the universe, and it can be helpful. So that's where I would call it a parasite, is if it just ceases to exist.
Okay, so yeah, because I do remember you talking about them, but you said insects could be one or the other, and I wasn't sure if maybe the puff of smoke was kind of like a darker color or cloudier color.
There doesn't seem to be much consistency there, and it seems like they all become something different. I don't remember the same thing happening. I mean, some things become birds, but they don't look like the same bird. So multiple times I've seen birds, but it's not like the exact same bird, or some have become clouds and they don't all look the same. So how they present to me, I really haven't seen a thing where I could say, that color means this or anything like that.
Okay. So is it more of maybe a frequency they give off that kind of tells you, hey, this might be a parasite versus a companion? So is it?
Yeah. Yes. And it's like when you're going up to a nice dog or a mad dog, and you usually know which is which. And you kind of get that same thing where these things are not pleased that you're there. They're not happy that you're there. They might take a swing at you. They really hold on, things like that. So yeah, they behave much differently. A companion you can just take right off.
Okay.
where these things are really digging in and they don't want to go.
Okay. And then you're talking about the polymedella.
Mhm.
But let's dive into that, because that's something I've never heard before. I mean, this is all kind of new, but
Sure.
let's talk a little bit about the polymedella, because this is when we're screaming at people and creating.
Yes. So polymedella is a phrase I coined, and what it means is many healings. And so
Okay.
what we're doing is we're either doing a healing for a bunch of people, or we're doing a healing for a big thing of bad energy. That, so there's many things there. And the way the one for road rage came about was I was on another show like this, and we were talking about it, and myself and the other two hosts, we all started laughing about how crazy we would get and the horrible things we would yell and how embarrassing we must be to our families as we're doing all these things. And I thought, you know what? This is too much. I hate to drive. I work myself into a frenzy thinking about I'm going to drive for an hour and I know 20 cars are going to cut me off. I know people are going to go slow. I was just making myself nuts. I could, to the point where I just dreaded a drive. And so I did the polymedella, and it's going to be in the second book. The full breakdown of it's in the second book. And it actually took a couple things. We did the polymedella, releasing the energy, but then as I was doing it, I also realized that there was a trauma release component to it. So I did a trauma release process, which is in the Slipstream Shaman too. It should be out in a month or two. And then I did some more of the energy healing, and then I had to do another trauma release, and then some more healing, and then it all seemed to work. And as people are reading it, they are feeling that energy. That energy went out immediately when I did it, and then as people read it and hear about it, that energy goes out again. So what I'm noticing as I'm driving, and it may just be because my perspective has changed, but I think it's more than that, is less people are cutting me off. Less people are clogging the left lane. Less people are cutting other people off that I see. And I used to just category everything I'm seeing and just get mad. I know what that guy's going to do. And sure enough, they'd do it. And I'd yell at them, even though they were a quarter mile ahead of me. I'd be yelling at them. And, if they'd have been on my lawn, I'd have yelled, "Get off my yard." And, I was a lunatic. I never tried to run anybody off or throw things at people, but all the horrible things I was yelling and thinking. So I know I was putting some bad energy out there, but the polymedella can be anything from working on road rage to I did a polymedella for the people wearing masks when the mask mandate was on, and the people that wore the mask hated the people that didn't, and the people that didn't hated the people that did, and they were going to fight and they were going to protest, and it was getting ugly. And I manage a retail store, and word got out that there was going to be a demonstration at that store with people that were not wearing masks, and they were mad that we required them to. And so they were going to put on a big thing. And I did this polymedella. I sent love out. I did everything to try to dissipate that energy between the two groups. And I can't remember if it was the day before or 2 days before that they were going to do that demonstration. The mandates changed to where stores didn't have to force people. And at that second, all that energy went away. And you might even remember that it was a big fight. And now people that wanted to wear it could, people that didn't could, and everybody was fine. And I'm hoping that I played a part in that, even if it was just a little straw that was the final thing that the universe needed, that final little bit of energy to make it work. So yeah, that's what polymedellas are.
Yes. And I think I've had my own share of that too. But I think the last few years have really challenged a lot of even energy people.
Absolutely.
Because for me, I already struggle with groups who are calm, even though there's just, everybody's calm and in the same mojo, but just groups of people. So it was almost impossible for me to even go out and be around anybody. Because again, you can feel the undercurrent, even if nobody's saying anything, you can just feel the undercurrent. And you're like, yeah. And the few times that I would go out. It was almost like, holding your breath underwater to get what you had to do and then come up.
Yeah. And then
Even the
hoping you
retail
weren't gonna-
people made fun of me because they're like, you're the world's fastest shopper.
Oh. And you're also afraid to sneeze or cough.
Yeah.
Because everybody would scatter or give you dirty looks and want to fight you.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just sneeze or cough. You can't control
There is a little bit of an inner joke because a couple of weeks before the whole mask and mandate, I had threatened to wear a mask, even though COVID hadn't even, there was nothing about that, masking or not yet, but there was a couple of people who literally, one lady who really irritated me. I always wonder, now that we're speaking about the ripples, I may have caused the mask mandate because of this lady. And I told her, I says, you really should not cough on the, she did. She coughed on a pile of oranges.
Oh.
And I told her, I says, that's really not appropriate. You know what she did? She purposely went over and coughed again. On it to be spiteful.
Yep.
So I came home. I was so upset. I'm like, I'm going to be the only jerk in the supermarket, but I'm going to wear a mask and I don't care. And look what happened. Like 2 weeks later, everybody had to wear a mask now.
I was one of the last ones that didn't, and it was almost to the point of forcing. And for me, I was enjoying watching the reactions of people. I would see people walking towards me and they would have a mask on. And then they would take like their sweater and bring it up over their face so that they had the mask and something else to block themselves from me. They were like vampires, like Dracula. And so being the way I am, I enjoyed the reaction of people and wanted to see how they would react. And so I was one of the last ones to wear the mask. And I was also one of the last ones to take it off once we were told.
Yeah, it did. That's, I think, one of the bigger struggles is, you've been conditioned and then you got to recondition yourself. I ran through the story. Everybody was coughing and sneezing about me. And, that always kind of bothered me because I'm a little germophobic, but I know the importance of, building up your immune system. Human beings have been around for thousands of years because of our immune system and the building up you have to build up the muscle of it. So I took my chances. I did get sick. It wasn't that bad, but I felt like I went through the eye of the storm with all these people coughing and sneezing around me. And I was, I had a little touch of something for a couple of weeks, went on. It didn't stop me, slowed me down, made me miserable a little bit, but it did not stop me and, survived to do this podcast, you see?
All right. I'm happy for that.
Yes. But now that we're talking about the slipstreams, and that's very fascinating. I never thought about that, but there are, I think, incidences that I may have experienced where you kind of have that, like you said, that backlash you got. And I don't know if you've ever been close enough to a semi, where you can feel that. I have, where it kind of sucks you in and then releases you.
Yes.
I'm almost wondering if an experience I had in Hawaii did some sort of slipstream kind of healing.
Okay.
Because, and let me just bounce this at you. I was actually, once again, I was guided to, could have been worse places, right? To Hawaii to actually go and see some, it was a paranormal convention with two psychics. And the first day I was there, I got blisters so bad that they were raw and the skin was peeling. I almost did not go back for the second day of it because I had to walk. And during one of these meditations, it was a healing meditation, the raw, painful blisters completely healed.
Wow.
At the end, I could not believe that. So it was something that was very obvious. I mean, this wasn't something minor. I mean, it was painful. I had to get a bunch of Band-Aids and Band-Aid up my foot because, just to wear any shoes. And all of a sudden I did this meditation, and literally like 20 minutes later, every single one of those blisters underneath the Band-Aids were gone.
That's amazing. That is powerful. That is, I love hearing stories like that.
Yeah. I mean, now I have never had anything that, I guess, spectacular since then. Maybe the closest was that 90-minute healing session, but with a chi master. But this is with my own experience. I now collectively, there might have been about maybe 3,000-4,000 people around me it was the Honolulu Convention Center. But I mean, maybe I hit the slipstream and it catapulted me into an accelerated healing in that 20 minutes.
I feel like that's very possible. Yeah. And it went back, and I almost wonder if the energy went back to the source, like you were talking about earlier, where it all happened, and corrected it at that point so that you were able to.
So it could have been a backwards, I'm thinking, well, maybe forward, but yeah, maybe the backwards too.
Probably both. Yeah. It went back to the origination spot, healed you there, and then propelled that forward for the fast healing. That's just unbelievably amazing. Yeah.
I know. I'm like, why doesn't that happen for everything? I have to figure out that. And this was in 2003. I've been still trying to figure that out so I can, duplicate it and share it, of course.
Yes, for sure. That's fantastic. I love that. That's one of the best experiences that has been shared with me. I love it.
And I haven't seen any or experienced anyone with that dramatic kind of, turnaround on something. But that's you've got me thinking, because I'm thinking, well, maybe I moved it forward, but you know what? Could have gone either way.
Or both. Yeah.
Or both.
Really both.
Yeah, because one of the other guided, this particular trip, I was given almost an itinerary of where I needed to be, and I had to get to, according to that guided message, I needed to be at Ala Moana Park, which was a couple of long blocks, and I'm like, not happening with those tore up blisters and excruciating pain. And once that happened, I was now able to go to Ala Moana Park from there, which, by the way, I expected more, spectacular something. Totally uneventful. I was in there going, okay, I made it. The blisters are healed. Got nothing. But I guess it wasn't about the park. It was about the experience to get me to the park.
Yes, absolutely. The experience is where it all matters.
Yeah. So, and away we go in this crazy universe. Huh?
Yeah. So something that I forgot to talk about with the book. It's the book is to teach people how to do what I do.
Okay.
And I want them to be able to, just like I'm talking about doing fast healings, I want them to be involved fast as well. So it's a fast book to read. You can read through the whole thing in 2 to 3 hours.
Oh, wow.
You can actually be working the processes in about 45 minutes to an hour. If you just wanted to get started on the processes, read the first half of the book and get started. If you want to know it a little bit more in depth, read about the processes and then read about the experiences. That'll take you a couple hours, maybe 3 hours to read through. It's a very fast read. And I wanted people to actually read it. I've been in too many libraries in people's houses, and I said, wow, you've got a lot of cool books. How many have you read? 2. and each one was going to change their life. And so I wanted this to be something that was a game changer for people. So I have kept it short, sweet, and to the point, and want people to be able to get it in their hands and immediately take action.
Fantastic. Well, any final words that you want to tell our audience here before we wrap this up?
Yeah, if you would come check out my website at slipstreamshaman.com. There's a link there that will take you to Instagram and also YouTube. And I would encourage you to follow me on Instagram. That's where all the new things will happen. The polymedellas will be there. Anything that we want people to know about will take place at Instagram. So follow me on Instagram at Slipstream Shaman, and YouTube will start getting some videos as well. And if you would like a healing, right now I'm close to a month behind, but if you want a healing, go to my website, go to the email link, and just send me a request. I do a healing for everybody that asks, but sometimes it takes a while. I was 2 months behind not too long ago. There was a couple shows that just really got me, and so I was 2 months behind. Those healings are free. There's no catch. I don't ask for a donation. I don't say, yeah, this is the first thing we do and it's free, but now I want to charge you. None of that. It's a free healing if you would like one.
Very nice. Awesome. Well, I want to thank you for sharing these amazing and fantastic insights with, quantum healing and, learning about the whole slipstream. I know I learned a lot myself. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. And I want to thank all of our listeners here for tuning into the Leap Into Your Story podcast, where you discover your inner story, work through the process, and meet others who've done it so you can be guided to your own writing journey. Remember to visit our website at leapintoyourstory.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. And again, while you're there, subscribe and like us via your favorite social media network. We are looking forward to seeing you next time here on the Leap Into Your Story podcast.
Thank you for tuning into the Leap Into Your Story podcast, where you discover your inner story, break down the process, and meet others who've done it so you can leap into your own story. Remember to visit our website at leapintoyourstory.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're there, subscribe and like to us via your favorite social media network. We're looking forward to seeing you next time on the Leap Into Your Story podcast.